Hi, everybody. I hope you are doing well and splendid. I hope you guys can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat. But recently, hi, Private Eye, can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Type a yes if you can hear me. Um, just yesterday, hi, good evening, Speak Vision. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Somebody tell me if they can hear me in the chat, please. Yes, put yes. I just need to hear a yes or type a yes, please, if you can hear me. Okay, thank you. So just yesterday, Nancy Grace did another interview, and she did an interview with Quilla Long, Shanquella's sister, older sister. And she's frustrated with the process of this case and the lack of progress in the case, just like all of us are. Now, I've gone over the extradition process, guys, on another video, so you'll have to watch that to discuss that. But the issue is, why is it taking this long? We actually have concrete, direct evidence. We have a video, okay? And so Nancy Grace brought out some key points that there's a frustration with. The issue now we're dealing with is the lack of progress. We got these family members, everybody out here living their best life. Elise out here working her job. I mean, we got Nazir out here, laughing on camera. And that is one of the key reasons why I am doing kind of background videos on the different Cabo 6 people, looking at their family, because some of these people could be involved in hiding these people, harboring them in their house or whatever. So it's important to look at some of these people who could be involved. More than likely, the FBI is already watching these family members, these individuals, to see what's going on. But the frustration is, like what Speak Vision is saying, why are they dragging their feet? Yes, international extraditions take longer than, for example, a state-to-state extradition, which Nancy Grace, I will acknowledge, she doesn't have an understanding of what an international extradition is versus a state-to-state. Her experience with extradition relates to extradition from state to state in the United States. And those extraditions, they're quick. They're very quick and easy. You have a hearing in court. The defendant or whoever's going to be extradited can contest the extradition, and then you have to do an identification hearing, and then they would extradite them to the other state. Whereas international extraditions do take a little longer. However, we do have a treaty, which, in my opinion, I don't understand why there isn't an arrest. That's the frustration I have with this case. We have Nancy Grace also confirming that she has experts who did a full investigation into whether there's an arrest. They also contacted people from the FBI and different resources, and all of them confirmed there hasn't been an arrest. So if you hear any bloggers claiming there's an arrest, it's a lie. It's a lie. They have no evidence of that. But I wanted to go in detail of her new podcast she did just yesterday, because I felt like it was so good. And I was trying to pick bits and pieces of it, but all of it was so good. So I'm going to be kind of bouncing around within her podcast, kind of talking about different parts of it. So I will be playing and stopping and discussing. Some people, they don't understand that. So they get frustrated and they're saying, why do you keep stopping it? Well, if you don't like the stopping and analyzing, then you can go find the podcast and watch it for yourself. But on my YouTube channel, all I'm doing is reviewing and analyzing and responding, because we can't just post someone's full podcast on our platforms and just have it be like that. That's called copyright information. You can only, for fair use, the purpose of fair use is you listen to the information and you give a response or an analysis. You can't just play it all the way through, which I see some people doing. So I just need to get that disclaimer, because some people always ask, why do you keep stopping it? Because that's the whole point. The whole point is to analyze this Nancy Grace interview, because she actually raises a lot of key points, and she's calling out the FBI too. She's just as frustrated as we are. And like myself, she's also a previous criminal prosecutor. So it's always good to hear from another attorney she has a lot more experience than I do, I would say. So it's good to hear from her. Although, yes, she may have some parts in her past that people like to bring out every time they hear Nancy Grace. I personally am very thankful that she is highlighting this case, and that she is advocating so much for Shanquella. She says she is going to do everything in her power to push for justice for Shanquella. And to me, that's amazing. And so I'm not going to sit here and critique this woman like a lot of people are. It's just so sad that people in our community always want to tear people down who actually care. And Nancy Grace actually legitimately cares. And because she's doing a follow-up podcast is really good. And it's going to put pressure on some of the people involved, because she has a pretty big following and a big platform. And like I was saying on my other video, what I need for my subscribers to do is to start calling those numbers that I gave out. I'll probably paste it in a another comment on this video, so you guys can start calling those numbers and emailing the people, because we do need to just start putting pressure to figure out what's going on, because it's frustrating. And as I've learned, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and everybody pretty much involved, including the parents, guys. If you're going to hear from Quilla, that she has said she hasn't heard anything from the FBI. She says that her mother is in contact with the FBI, but basically the FBI just keeps telling her they can't release any information. That's all they're telling Quilla's mother, which is frustrating. And that Quilla's mother is really getting information from the news outlets. So it's just, I want to go over this, dissect it, talk it out with you guys. So let's get started. I'm going to start first in the middle, because there was just amazing parts talking about why there has been no arrest, and also discussing some of the extradition process. So I'm going to start there first, and then I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth. What I also loved about Nancy Grace, her recent podcast from yesterday, is she has a doctor. Oh my gosh, guys, wait till you hear this doctor. Oh my gosh, you guys need to listen to this whole thing through, because it is good. Every part of it. I tried to find little bits and pieces to share with you, but I can't. We got to dissect it all, because all of it's good. I mean, I was like, man, everything in here I want to talk about. So anywho, there's this part where this doctor comes, oh my gosh. And I actually discussed this on another video, because there was another doctor that we had on my video before. She said pretty much the same thing, but he goes into detail what exactly Shanquella went through, from when her injury happened, what she would have been feeling, what she would have been experiencing. And when you actually can put yourself and picture what she went through, it's a really, really, really horrendous way to go out. It's just, it's horrendous. So man, I want you to hear that also. So let's get started. Now I'm going to mute myself.
Joe Bruno is about to join me from WSOC TV, and he is joining me, I hope, with some kind of an update on why these friends have not landed their rear ends behind bars. Take a listen to our friends at ABC.
Salamandra again says she confronted one of the friends who lived nearby.
They say Shanquella didn't die from no alcohol poisoning. They say she had been beating her neck. He broke out in a sweat, and he came out of his shirt. He was sweating so bad, it's like it was eating him up.
But soon, another punch in the gut. Graphic cell phone footage leaked online appearing to show Shanquella naked, physically assaulted by another woman, while others appeared to watch on, even encourage it.
Quilla, can you at least fight back?
All six of them had an opportunity to stop that situation. Neither one of them didn't do nothing about it. Who would give them the right to take a life?
You're hearing the mom and dad speaking to our friends at ABC. That's Marshal Service, International Investigation, also a DOJ, also author of Solo Shot, Curse of the Blue Stone, hits Amazon January, author of Flying Solo, Top of the World. Irv, when you check into a hotel in another country, including Mexico, you have to show your passport and all your ID. They don't let you just walk in and run to your room and raid the minibar. So this has got to be on record, right?
That's correct, Nancy. I'm confident the Mexican authorities have those people's passport information and also identified them and know their location in the United States. It's now a matter of going through the extradition process to bring them back to Mexico.
How the heck did they leave the country to start with? Irv Brandt, the medical examiner, says she did not die of alcohol poisoning. She died of basically internal decapitation. Her head was disconnected from her body, and then they hop on a plane and take off?
Yes, it's actually that simple. They obviously left while the investigation was ongoing. But now that it has been ruled a homicide and not an accidental death or death by alcohol poisoning, they can start the process to bring those people back to the country of Mexico.
I don't know why they let them leave to start with. That said, now we've got to get them back. Joe Bruno joining me, WSOC TV. Joe, what's happening and why?
Nancy, these friends who were on the trip with Shanquella, Most have since deactivated their social media accounts. Many have changed their phone numbers. And I have been to the homes of 5 of the 6 of them, addresses associated with these people on the trip, and they are no longer there.
You mean they no longer live there or they're hiding out?
They are either not answering or neighbors have not seen them in weeks.
Okay, you know what? Dr. Bethany Marshall, psychoanalyst, joining me out of LA at drbethanymarshall.com. Dr. Bethany, there's nothing that screams, I did it, more than deactivating all your social and changing your cell number.
And just disappearing. Nancy, can you imagine going on a trip out of the country with a friend? That friend is sick or dies and you flee? I mean, that speaks volumes. Even if there was no video, you have so-called friends who leave somebody in an ambulance. I mean, just picture that for a second. I mean, that is so profound. Then they go back to their mommy's homes. Then they deactivate everything. No wonder the one friend was sweating profusely when he came to Shanquella's family to confess what had happened. He wasn't sweating because he was so anxious about what happened to her. He knows he's going to spend the rest of his life in jail, Nancy. And you
see right there, that's my first issue with them. Now, I'll acknowledge one of the reasons they're going to claim why they all left their residence and changed their numbers and pretty much left town. They're going to claim, oh, well, because we're being harassed by people. But if you have nothing to hide, why would you change all this, deactivate your social media, change your number, flee, basically leave your residence? And I have a big issue with Khalil's mom in particular, because she accompanied Khalil to Shanquella's mother's house and sister and spoke to them and basically was there with him while he was speaking this lie. It's like she kind of was an indirect accomplice because she's sitting there with him, and then she turns around and tells Tequila and her mother that, oh, my son is sick, when, incriminating evidence starts coming out with the video and so forth. So it's like, and then they flee. So it's like the behavior of the mother fleeing. Also, based upon Nancy Grace and the information disclosed in this updated interview, it's said to believe that Khalil's mother doesn't even work at her job anymore. She basically left her job. She's not even working the job. So it's just like her behavior is very shady. It's just like all these parents are shady. That's why I feel it is imperative that we go over the different families and who are involved, because they're somewhat supporting this criminal behavior, in my opinion, allegedly criminal behavior. They're just as much, in my opinion, responsible for their behavior. So let's keep going. That really frustrated me. I'm with Nancy Grace on the fact that, their behavior of deactivating their accounts, changing their phone numbers, moving away, all that. Like, wow, that's very substantial behavior. Now, again, I know their argument is going to be, well, we're being harassed and stalked, so that's why we left. But I mean, you didn't see Nazir. Nazir did not deactivate his Instagram. He claims up and down. Now, I have a lot of issues with him, but you don't see him deactivating his account though either, because he claims up and down that he's innocent. So it's just like, look at the behavior involved. Clearly, these people know what they did was wrong, and that's why they're running and fleeing. So that's my frustration with their behavior. The behavior in this case is so shady, and I really like that Nancy Grace and her professionals that she has on her panel are bringing this out. Also, the woman that just spoke right now, like how she really placed us into Shanquella's shoes when she said, imagine you're going on this trip, you're excited to go on the trip. And Shanquella was, the way she spoke about it to Tequila and how she spoke about it to her father, she seemed to be really excited to go to Cabo. And she even told Tequila that she wanted to go to Cabo with Tequila also, because Tequila told Shanquella that she wanted to go to Cabo when Shanquella came to Tequila's house to pick up the luggage. Tequila told Shanquella that she wanted to go to Cabo, and Shanquella was like, let's go again. So her behavior seemed like she was just excited to go on this trip, only to be, ambushed like this, guys. It's so horrendous, but let's keep going, because I like Nancy Grace and how they're really portraying this story.
Again, even if there was no video, these friends were plotting this. This does not happen like in a blink of an eye, in the spur of the moment. These friends were probably deriding Shanquella, saying horrible things about her, taking unflattering photographs, maybe not consciously planning to kill her, but at some sort of pre-conscious level, the attack was being planned. And I think that's what's so, horrible about this is she was sort of like the lamb to the slaughter. She had no idea. She called her mom and said she was about to eat tacos. She was having the happiest moments with new friends. I mean, if you ever hung out with new friends, it's so exciting to be with them and to get to know new people. And these new people were plotting against her all the while.
What do we know?
Man, that woman that's speaking, she's incredible. If she would be the prosecutor on this case, she would move that whole jury. It was amazing how she really laid it out for us. One of the things I wanted to point out is when she talked about the premeditation aspect of it. I think deep down, and this is my opinion, that Dejanay, again, had a animosity and insecurity as it relates to Shanquella. Let's be real. Dejanay is not that pretty. She's not. She's basic, being honest. She doesn't have much of the success that Shanquella has. She doesn't really have much of a style as it relates, in contrast to Shanquella. There's so many things that Shanquella represents that Dejanay isn't. So I think there was an underlying animosity that Dejanay had towards Shanquella for quite some time. And then she sees Shanquella at this party. I think Shanquella went to the party, again, to help fund this whole trip, because a lot of times when they have these group trips, a lot of people, they contribute financially so that they can afford, for example, this extravagant villa and so forth. So Khalil, with his shady self, invited her knowing good and well that Dejanay already didn't like her and had jealousy. Dejanay is just an insecure woman. I don't think the premeditation to attack didn't really manifest, in my opinion, until later on that night or in the early morning when Dejanay just had it and was like, I'm going to beat her up, blah, 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 and talk to the group about it, because the group already knew that Dejanay didn't like her. And of course, them not having any form of mentality of their own, they just followed along. I think their intention was to defame this young lady, to humiliate her, videotape her in her most vulnerable state, get her, ambush her in the time when she's basically trying to wake up. And then they wanted to attack her. I don't think they at this point intended to unalive her. I don't think that was an intent. I think it was just to attack this girl and humiliate her. But that intention changed, in my opinion, once the injuries to Shanquella was at a dire state, when basically Shanquella was unconscious and they couldn't wake this girl up, and they denied her medical, like the hospital attention, basically denied her hospital attention and said, treat her at the villa. I think that intent manifests and changed, because intent can change. Intent, just like any human, we change our thought process, our mind about things. Maybe 1 minute you want to eat fish, and then the next minute you change your mind and you want to eat pizza. That's kind of how intent is. Intent doesn't just stay the same. Intent changes. So I think at some point when Shanquella was not able to she was basically knocked unconscious, could not even speak. I think the intent changed, and they didn't want her to get full help, because they knew if she was, revived or awakened, she could tell the authorities that she was brutally beaten. So I think that intent did change over time to basically not get her the true help she needed. So they tried to, and they did successfully manipulate that con artist doctor, in my opinion, to do the medical treatment or render the medical treatment at that villa, knowing good and well Shanquella needed more help. And in my opinion, I don't even think Shanquella was alive. Like I said, my theory has always been Shanquella passed away within 15 minutes after that injury. So I don't even think she was alive. But even if she were, the doctor said she needed to go to a hospital, and their behavior of saying no and not taking her to the hospital, basically begging the doctor to not take her to the hospital, that to me gives me some inkling that their intent changed to now an intentional wanting this girl to die at this point, because they didn't want to give her the help she needed, which I don't even think any help at this point would have helped anyway, because I think this girl was already deceased. But that's just opinion I have, a humble opinion I have. But let's keep going.
About arrest warrants coming out of Mexico. Take a listen to our cut 43. This is Megan Bragg, WCNC.
This is the article that has been circulating on social media. It claims that there has been an arrest in the Shanquella Robinson case, but we wanted to walk you through the article because there are some red flags here. When someone reports and shares claims that are not verified, this is how misinformation spreads. First, the headline suggests DeHaan Jackson was arrested in the United States. As of now, Mexican authorities have not publicly even named a suspect. They have issued arrest warrants, but haven't said who the warrants are for.
Okay, straight back to Joe Bruno joining us from WSOC. I heard the rumors and my cell phone blew up that there had been an arrest in Shanquella Robinson's homicide. Then quickly I learned that wasn't true. What do we know about any arrests or arrest warrants which would come out of Mexico?
Right. And I've talked to the FBI, U.S. Marshals, as well as the State Attorney General's office in Mexico. All tell me they do not have any information about an arrest being made. However, it is confirmed that an arrest warrant has been issued by the State Attorney General in Baja California Sur, where Cabo is. But like that report said, they have not identified the person by name. They have just said this is for the direct attacker. Has been
through the article because there are some red quickly even named
in Shanquella Robinson's homicide. Then quickly I learned that wasn't true. What do we know about any arrests or arrest warrants which would come out of Mexico?
Right. And I've talked to the FBI, U.S. Marshals, as well as the State Attorney General's office in Mexico. All tell me they do not have any information about an arrest being made. However, it is confirmed that an arrest warrant has been issued by the State Attorney General in Baja California Sur.
So I wanted to play that again to emphasize it because I can't emphasize this enough. This professional here on Nancy Grace channel, and even that Nancy Grace, people in high profile positions have confirmed that there hasn't been arrest. But in particular, he did the extra step. He actually reached out to the FBI, the marshal, the state marshal, the attorney general. And he basically, the state attorney general, he reached out to all of the major entities involved. And they all said that they don't have information on that because there's not an arrest. There's not an arrest. So the fact that he went out there and did the legwork to reach out to the entities that could give us the information, the FBI, the marshal, the state attorney general, that confirms there hasn't been an arrest. But there's still people that will insist on claiming this fake rumor. But I thought he really pointed out that key information. Also, Nancy Grace pointed that out because if there was an arrest, Nancy Grace would have been on that already. She would have been announcing it to the hilltops, and we wouldn't have this updated commentary from her in frustration. So let's keep going.
Where Cabo is, but like that report said, they have not identified the person by name. They have just said this is for the direct attacker in this instance.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. A prosecutor for Baja California Sur states that a friend of Robinson's, quote, who is the direct aggressor, which I take to mean the woman beating her in the head in the video, is being sought by international authorities on charges of femicide. Charges of femicide. Now, femicide, to my understanding, in Mexico is the way they describe the murder of a female. What is that, Joe Bruno?
Certainly. A femicide is basically when a female is murdered. They look at whether she was killed for reasons due to her gender or perhaps it was due to domestic violence.
Exactly.
Oftentimes when a woman is killed in Mexico, the case starts as femicide, and once they investigate, if they determine those aren't the factors, then it gets recategorized to a homicide. So it's essentially a type of homicide investigation by local authorities.
So I like how he broke that down. So femicide is pretty much, it's a type of homicide. It's a type of homicide, but it relates directly to a hate crime that leads to someone being unalived and it be a woman involved. And one thing he pointed out that we haven't heard about is that in Mexico, when a woman is brutally unalived, the case will start out initially as a femicide. So that's like the starting ground of the investigation. But once the investigation kicks off and they actually start getting more clarifying evidence, that case can change into just a general homicide. So right now it's starting in the normal processing of Mexico's investigation, because that's the only information they have is a video, basically, and some recordings or whatever they have. So as it relates to the information they have right now, it's a femicide. But once Dejanay eventually gets extradited, which I don't understand at this point, there should have at least been, the DOJ should have already done their review, and they should have already sent their complaint to a magistrate in where the individuals reside, and they should have already sent out the American or the U.S. arrest warrants. I don't know what's taken so long for the U.S. to issue their arrest warrants, because, again, as I mentioned in another video, the authorities cannot go out and arrest any of the Cabo Six with a Mexico warrant. That is not valid in the U.S. That Mexico warrant has to be basically transferred into a U.S. warrant. So that means a U.S. judge has to look at the information, see if it's a valid crime involved, and then they will issue an arrest warrant. And then that's when either the FBI, the local police department, or they can have a task force that encompasses these individuals, will go out and then they will do the arrest. My question is, why haven't that started? That part of this whole thing should have already started. This is not a complicated case. They actually have a video. That's the issue I have. There's actual experts that are on Nancy Grace that will tell you that they basically could see in that video where Shanquella's neck was broke, where the decapitation happened. In the video, experts on her page that we're going to play, that I'm going to play. So it's frustrating that I don't understand the lack of progress. And I really appreciate Nancy Grace, because she is really exposing that on her podcast.
Listen to Hour Cut 46 from Newsy.
Mexican prosecutors have said the suspect is an American and the charges are femicide. Mexican prosecutors said in a statement, Robinson's death was the result of a, quote, direct attack, not an accident. Mexican law enforcement has requested the suspect be extradited back across the border so she can face charges. That would require U.S. authorities to hand over an American citizen to a foreign government.
She is going to have to be extradited to Mexico. I do see that happening.
Deborah Blum is a criminal defense attorney in New York. Blum says while she expects the extradition to happen, it could be a process to get it done.
They're going to have their day in court where the person that's accused of this gets to say, I don't agree to extradition, and then they get to have a judicial hearing in front of the judge.
The FBI has also opened an investigation.
And that's what I talked about before on the extradition video, is that after the U.S. warrant is issued by the magistrate, the judge where the suspect resides, when that arrest warrant is issued and the local police department or the FBI or the task force goes out and arrests her, then him or her, basically, allegedly, we think it's Deja Demon. But once she's arrested, then she can have her limited hearing, which is what this defense attorney was just saying. She has a limited hearing in court. And during that hearing, her attorney, which I know her attorney is going to do, is going to basically want an appeal and say, nope, we refuse this extradition. We want to contest it. And then it goes to an appeal hearing. And then during that hearing, then that judge will make his final decision, whichever judge hears that hearing where she contests. But more than likely, I don't know how the judge will decide otherwise, unless there's just not enough evidence, which we have a lot of evidence. We have a video, for goodness sake. But anywho, with that being said, because we have a treaty involved, I don't see why this is taking too long, because we actually have a treaty. And normally when we have a treaty that's involved, it's a more smooth process, and more than likely they will honor the extradition. So this frustrating part is what's going on. After Dejanay contests that hearing, then of course the judge makes a decision, which in my opinion, the judge would rule to extradite given the treaty and if there's enough evidence. And then the case gets sent off to the Secretary of State, who makes the final decision. But my question is, the issue is there hasn't been arrest. That's the problem I have. Why isn't there an arrest at this point? We should be at this stage by now. It's December. That arrest warrant that the Mexican authorities issued was over a month ago, unless there is some stagnant issue in Mexico where it's still in one of their departments. Because mind you, once the Mexican Attorney General issued that warrant, it doesn't just go directly to the US. There's several other departments in Mexico that warrant has to go through and clear within those departments in Mexico before it even gets sent over to the DOJ in the United States. So that's the big thing we're dealing with. So the question is, where is this Mexico warrant at? Where is it at? Is it in the United States yet? Has it been sent to the DOJ? I would think it should be by now. It's been over a month. What is taking so long? This is not a difficult case. This is not a circumstantial case. We have so much direct evidence. We have a video. We have a death certificate. We have an autopsy showing the cause of death. And you can see the horrific, violent actions of allegedly Dejanay, but we already know it is, but we have to say allegedly for legal reasons. We can see that on the video, and there's medical experts saying that could have caused the decapitation, the internal decapitation. So my question is, why isn't there a U.S. arrest warrant by now? This is frustrating. They are literally dropping the ball, which at this point, we need to start taking action and start calling some numbers and keep their phones busy. Because it seems that's what we need to do. That's what they did in the Takeoff case. And they finally announced an arrest. You know, they weren't trying to take too long because people were calling almost every day regarding the Takeoff case. So we need to do that for this case. Start calling and calling and calling. Like, what's going on? What's going on with the investigation? Y'all need to keep it. Let's get it going. Why isn't there an arrest? What is taking so long? We have a treaty and we have direct evidence. Oh, this is frustrating.
Into Robinson's death.
Thank God in heaven the FBI is on it. Okay, everything you just heard by that lawyer it's a technical legal term. It's Latin. It's called BS. You might be familiar with that because Irv Brandt joining me from the U.S. Marshal Service. Isn't it true? Extradition is not the killer's, quote, day in court. That's when you have a jury to determine if you're guilty or innocent. And extradition is real easy. Let's just pretend Jackie Howard over there is a killer and I find her holed up under her mama's bed in Tennessee. I don't have a court hearing about guilt or innocence. I drag her to a Tennessee court, and in my other hand, I have an extradition. It's one piece of paper signed by the governor of Georgia saying Jackie is wanted for murder.
This is the part I wanted to stop real quick, and the attorney's gonna correct her, but I want to correct her also. Nancy Grace is discussing an extradition as it relates from state to state within the United States. So she is not talking about an international extradition. There's two different processes, and it's a little bit more tedious for an international extradition versus a state to state within the United States. So she's only familiar with, her being a prosecutor, she's only familiar with, for example, extraditing a defendant from Illinois to Florida within the United States. So those are more simple. Those are basically, you call the guy into the courtroom, says, do you waive extradition? He can say yes. If he says no, they'll have a limited hearing. It's kind of like a pre-trial hearing, kind of like a preliminary hearing. If you know what a preliminary hearing is, kind of a probable cause hearing where the prosecutor will put on evidence proving the identification of the person. And then once the judge decides, okay, this is the person, then they will extradite them back. If the defendant says, I want to contest this within the United States, state to state extradition. So those are easy. They're really smooth sailing, a simple hearing, and you're done. This is not the case. This type of hearing, this type of extradition, when it's international, it is a little bit more complicated because you have the executive branch that's involved. The Secretary of State is the final determinator, the final one, the final entity that decides whether they approve an extradition or not. In this case, the secretary's hand is a little bit tied because we have a treaty involved, and we literally, in this case, we have direct evidence of a video. So I'm just like, what is going on? Now, I know the FBI is slow, y'all. The federal government in general is slow. They are very slow. It takes them, every federal case I've heard of, they usually take a long time to look into their cases. They're extremely thorough. But this case is not that type of case because I feel like there's so much direct evidence. It's like, what more are you looking for? I'm just really irritated. Or could it be that maybe the Mexican authorities still have that extradition and they're still channeling up the extradition documents within their departments? I don't know, but I'm very irritated because it's taking a long time. But I just wanted to stop there and correct Nancy Grace, guys, because I don't want you guys to be confused and think, oh, it's supposed to be really over the night, very fast process. No, what she's discussing is a state-to-state simple extradition when it's within the United States. But when it's an international extradition, that extradition proposal or document or request has to move through different channels of entities from within that country, whatever country is trying to request the U.S. citizen. They have different departments. And then once it passes their analysis, it gets sent to our U.S. Department of Justice. And within that Department of Justice, there's an office called the Office of International Affairs. Those are the prosecutors that will look at the extradition documents. Once that office looks at it and says, okay, this is good, this is valid, they will send a complaint to the magistrate judge within the state or wherever location where they know that suspect resides. In this case, possibly she's in Connecticut, possibly she's in Texas, but I'm pretty sure the FBI by now should know where they are. If not, I don't even know if they even know where they are, because based upon this news reporter that speaks on the Nancy Grace panel, he claims that he saw the business card from the sheriff's office or the local police department. So at least the local police department doesn't know where they are, but I'm hoping the FBI knows where these people are, because that, that's where the family comes involved. Are they harboring these fugitives? Are they hiding people? Because at this point, we don't know where these people are. And I don't know if the FBI, are they watching, monitoring? That's the question I have. It doesn't look like the local authorities know, because they're over here leaving business cards at their old addresses where they have pretty much left those places. So that is the question I have for the authorities. FBI needs to hurry up and pick up the pace, because this whole thing of I can't tell information, y'all need to hurry up, okay? Because we getting tired of waiting. We're getting way tired of waiting. I know this is an international extradition. I understand the different entities, but still, we should at least have a U.S. arrest warrant by now. Over a month? Come on now.
All I have to do, Irv Brandt, is drag her from under her mom's bed to a courtroom in Tennessee and say, Judge, here's the governor's extradition order. This is Jackie Howard. And then the governor asks her, the judge asks her one question, are you Jackie Howard? If she says yes, she's gone on the next jail bus to Georgia. If she says no, then I get to do a fingerprint kit on her right there in court and show it to the judge. Then we put her on a jail bus to Georgia. It's not a trial. It's not really even a fact-finding process. It's just, are you Jackie?
Okay, I'm a little surprised. Nancy Grace is still wrong. Oh my gosh, she's more of a senior attorney than I am, and she's wrong. For example, you heard how she said extradite from state to state, like move you to a bus to Georgia. She's talking about state to state extradition. It's not as simple as just taking someone's fingerprints, because I've actually done an extradition in court, and we had to put on evidence that it was the person. When the person contests the hearing, they say, I'm not such and such, and I want to contest the extradition. We did have to do a hearing. We did a hearing and we went over evidence. We did have fingerprints. We had photos, other things to show, documentation to show it is the person. And then the judge made a ruling during that hearing to say, okay, I do find that this is A, B, and C, and this person should be extradited. But it wasn't just like fingerprints and move along. No, it is a hearing. They do get a hearing, even if it's from state to state. So I don't know what Nancy Grace has been doing in her career, y'all. But again, I had to stop her because I don't want you guys to be misinformed. That's why I had to correct her.
That's all it is. Agree, disagree, Irv Brandt?
No, I agree. The process, as you just laid out for state to state, is actually a good comparison to how it works internationally.
Why do you sound so calm? Why can you sound so calm? Are you just like exhausted from all the murder, extraditions, and manhunts that you've been on all around the world?
Yes.
I mean, this girl got beaten dead, dragged out of bed, and hit in the head till she's internally decapitated.
Yes, Nancy. I served as the chief inspector at the Office of International Affairs for the DOJ.
Okay, in that case, let me formally apologize for anything that I just said because you clearly know a lot more than me. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll quickly.
Just in case you guys missed that, I need to emphasize that he actually worked in the Office of International Affairs within the Department of Justice. So this is a man that has firsthand knowledge of international extraditions. He worked within the office that we were just discussing about, for example, the Office of International Affairs being within the Department of Justice. He works within that office here. He previously did. So listen to what he has to say, because he would have more knowledge versus Nancy Grace.
Run you through it. During my time at DOJ, at OIA, I supervised hundreds of these type of cases, just like you said. And when the warrant is issued and the suspect is identified, and a foreign government sends the request to OIA attorneys, their assistant United States attorneys, assign the case to the district where the suspect is in. In this case, it would be Charlotte, North Carolina. Then the AUSA there evaluates the evidence, the probable cause, which in this case seems fairly cut and dry. They have a video. Then they prepare it for a judge who evaluates if there's probable cause.
We have a former Office of International Assistant Attorney saying the video evidence is cut and dry. Did you hear that? Cut and dry. So it's cut and dry. Why is the FBI making this more complicated than it really is? Cut and dry, direct video evidence. A former Office of International Affairs employee, attorney who evaluated hundreds of these international extraditions. So he's basically going against the grind of what the FBI is saying. The FBI keeps saying, we're reviewing. What are you reviewing? Are you slowing down the video? We've slowed down that video left and right. It's clear cut. What are you looking at? It's like, come on, FBI, cut and dry. He said it, keywords, cut and dry. What's taking so long?
May issue an extradition warrant. Then that person is taken into custody. And just like you said, there's no day in court. They're not trying the case in Charlotte. They're going to try the case in Mexico. The only thing they're going to determine at that time, the first thing is that the person that the Mexican authorities want? It's basically an identity hearing. Then they'll determine if that person's going to be released pending the extradition process before they're returned to Mexico. They're not going to have a trial in Charlotte on a murder case. That's going to take place in Mexico.
Can I just answer that real?
Yeah, so what he was saying, that there's a difference between a trial and a hearing. So she's not going to be tried here, meaning they're putting on a full-fledged case with a jury and they're going to find her guilty. That's not what's going to happen. They're going to have a hearing, meaning the judge will hear evidence to identify that this is in fact the person that is on the Mexico warrant or extradition warrant, because at this point it has to be changed. That Mexico warrant has to change into a U.S. extradition warrant. So in the ID hearing, the judge will look at the evidence and say, okay, is this the person that's on the extradition warrant? And then they prove that and they say, yes, it's true. But Dejanay or whoever is on that warrant can still contest that hearing. They still can say, I don't want to be extradited. It's probably going to be a quick contest, though, because based upon the treaty involved, that judge is probably going to still say, oh, well, I'm sorry you contested. You're going to be extradited. But the thing is, what the problem I have right now, guys, is the extradition warrant. Why don't we have a U.S. extradition warrant? We should at least be at this point by now with the extradition warrant, and we should have at least been at the stage of the ID hearing. That's where we should be right now, at the stage of that point right now, the ID hearing, and we should be going to the process of it being sent to the Secretary of State, and she should have been extradited by January. What's going on? Oh, sorry, guys. I'm getting emotional because this is at this point, they're doing too much. I don't know what else they could look up or investigate in this case. We have a video. They've already looked like they've been asking and interviewing the different Cabo 6, unless they're having a problem finding these people. That could be the only issue I could be, think of, that they having an issue with finding these people. But they should at least have a U.S. warrant by now. What's going on? Where's the U.S. warrant?
Question really fast. HELLNO. Once they get them in court, they're not going to be released.
Highly unlikely.
They are getting on a bus to take them to a plane, to have them handcuffed on the plane and taken to Mexico.
Friends and dyslexic. It's an first fan to see online. Join now.
Sister 40, our friend Nikki Hauser.
We came to ensure that there is enough people putting pressure on the entire system to do what is necessary to get justice for this young woman.
Among the mourners this weekend,
our friend Nikki Hauser.
We came to ensure that there is enough
criminal.
Shanquella's sister, what are police telling your mom?
As of right now, nothing. The FBI, when she's in contact with them, it just pretty much they tell her they can't give her any information and to just be patient.
Guys,
See, that's frustrating. The parents are in contact with FBI, and all they can say is, we can't give you any information. Please be patient. What are you doing? The only thing I can guess of right now is they're trying to find some of the Cabo 6 to still get statements. They're trying to lock them in to their statements. That's really all I can think of. Or there could be another question too, because based upon one of Bernard's first interviews, he did an interview, one of his very first interviews with NC Beat. He stated that there was going to be another autopsy done by the FBI. And he said that autopsy was going to be done before they laid Shanquella to rest. So my question is, what if they are doing a toxicology test just to refute the allegation that Shanquella had anything in her system? But still, I mean, well, if they're doing a drug tox, then it will take a couple months, you guys. It will take some time. It will. So that could be an issue. Another thing I do have to point out, in the legal process, these situations do take a long time. For example, if someone's charged with a crime, for example, you don't see them tried for that case till 2 or 3 years later. But this thing is, it's not a trial, it's a hearing. And then she can appeal the hearing. I don't know why they can't expedite the process of this, because of just given the issues and how straightforward and cut and dry the direct evidence is. I'm not understanding why they can't extradite the process. So one of my questions is, are they doing a toxicology test on her? Maybe they're doing that on her to see if they can refute any issues with drugs or substance being involved. That could be one of the things they're trying to solidify more of their evidence. Because mind you guys, FBI is very thorough. That's what frustrates me about them. It takes them forever to investigate cases, whereas the local DAs, they would have already had this stuff, at least a preliminary investigation, and they already had filed their complaint, already had this person arrested by now. But feds move very slow. They're very thorough, guys. They want to make sure they can lock in all the solid evidence, because mind you, the FBI is doing their independent investigation, but they're also doing an investigation on the behalf of the Mexican authorities. That is one thing you have to know. Even though it's a separate investigation, whatever they find out, they're going to give that to the Mexican authorities also. So it's like they're kind of an extended version. They're doing their investigation, but they're going to give that information. So that could be why it's taking a while, but I'm still wondering. I'm like, come on, you guys have a whole video. Why isn't there at least an extradition or warrant? Why isn't there a U.S. warrant? At least can we at least have a warrant right now, and at least have her arrested? Because these girls, or this girl, whoever's on the warrant, they're out here living their best life, celebrating birthdays. I mean, there's Christmas coming up next week. They get to enjoy the holidays, while Shanquella's parents, they don't get to enjoy holidays. They got to sit there alone, sad and depressed. Also, Nancy Grace reached out to Shanquella's mother to do this updated interview, this part 2 interview. And Shanquella's mother was in so much agony and pain, and she was too upset that she could barely speak, and she didn't want to do it. So she sent Tequila to do it. She had Tequila, her daughter, do it, because that's why you've noticed she has not been speaking a lot lately. She's refused a couple of interviews lately. because it's just been it's not been bearable for her to be able to speak on it. She can't even speak at this point. She's in so much pain and grieving, and then the longer she has to wait, the more painful it is. So the issue I have with the FBI is they need to at least give her something, even if they have to keep everything confidential. They need to at least give her something. Say, we're working on the case. We've at least done this progress, something. Give them a little piece of something so that they can hold on to that information and have a sense of hope, because you're making this worse on the family and they're frustrating me with that. But let's keep going.
I want you to take a listen to our cut 40, our friend Nikki Hauser.
We came to ensure that there is enough people putting pressure on the entire system to do what is necessary to get justice for this young woman.
Among the mourners this weekend, activist Tamika Mallory, who spoke during the service and promised to get answers in Shanquella's case.
Losing a loved one in the heinous way in which has happened to Shanquella, there probably will never be peace for them, but there cannot just be an unopened situation. It has to be closed with truth, and it has to be that there is accountability for those who are responsible for her death.
Joe Bruno joining me from WSOC TV. Joe, trust me, I don't want to kill the messenger. That would be you. But explain to me why Mrs. Robinson, this is Shanquella's mother, has to have vigils and she has to have activists and protests to put her daughter's killers on trial. I don't understand that. I know you said you had to go looking for them and you're the investigative reporter. They've deactivated their social media. They've changed their cell phones and they're hiding out from their apartments. Okay. I have faced that maybe 1,000 times prosecuting a case. Of course they leave because they know they're in trouble. But that should not stop local police from finding them. What are you learning, Joe? Just give me some good news. Give me any news.
One of my door knocks to an address associated with the person believed to have attacked Shanquella in that video. While no one answered the door, I noticed a business card taped to the door for the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office investigator. Forsyth County would be the county that issues a warrant because that's the county that she resides in. But that tells me, at least, that there are local authorities actively attempting to get in contact with the people that were on this trip.
You mean arrest or sorry, I know you nicely said get in contact. Okay, Joe Bruno, that is giving me a little bit of good news. Quilla Long, did you hear that? This guy, Joe Bruno, WSOC TV, is out tracking, trying to find the people involved with your sister's homicide. And he could tell that at least in one instance, the cops had already been there. Local cops. That's what we need. Local cops finding them, getting them to court, because there are arrest warrants. We just need them extradited. What about that, Quilla?
That's a start. I mean, because before Joe Bruno information, I really didn't think they was doing anything, looking for anybody. I can't believe that it's taking this long.
And Dr. Bethany Marshall, psychoanalyst to the stars, joining us out of Beverly Hills. You can find her at drbethanymarshall.com, unless you want to watch her on Netflix on Bling Empire.
And I do want to point that out. The reporter that said he went to the residence and he saw the sheriff's or the local police officer's business card. Guys, that was a couple of weeks ago because I reported on that. And that was like at least 2 weeks ago, if not longer. So, okay, what happened after those few weeks ago? That's an older report that he's talking about, that the card was placed on one of the Cabo 6 door. So what has happened since then? I'm starting to wonder and question, do they really know where some of these people are? Because my question is, was Dejanay residing in North Carolina before this whole tragedy happened? And then did she just go back to her hometown, Connecticut, after this happened? And do they really know where these people are? That's the question I have. Now, News reporters found Elise, so she's already trackable. They found Nazir, and Nazir claims up and down. We don't know if this is true, guys, but his mother alleges that he spoke to the FBI, so they at least found him. But the question is, because we haven't heard any updates about Malik, we haven't heard any clear updates about Dejanay, we haven't heard any updates about Khalil. Those three individuals in particular, there's been no reports about these people's potential locations. And there's information out there that Khalil has ties, family ties to Virginia, which I'm going to do a whole video on him and his background, his family also coming up soon. I'll be doing a video just looking into his background, but he has Virginia ties. So have they actually took time to look or reach out to the authorities? Because what if, even though it's the FBI, what if they don't know where Dejanay is or Khalil is or Malik, because they have to question all the Cabo people involved. The two we know they probably already found and talked to was Elise and Nazir. But we have, Winter Donovan too. We haven't heard anything about where Winter Donovan is. So there's at least 4 of the Cabo 6. There hasn't been much information where these people could be at. They could have left to areas where the authorities don't know and have not gotten contact. The family at this point seems very shady because, like I said, this is why I'm going over the families. And if people don't like hearing about the families and their background, then don't watch the videos I'm doing, because it's important to talk about them because they're just as involved as the kids are, allegedly, because number one, Winter Donovan's mom, she takes herself off of the social media. She flees. It sounds like her behavior is very, very incriminating, in my opinion. Why did you just like flee basically with your daughter? Where are you at? Not heard of anymore. Same thing with Khalil and his mom. They just left town, allegedly. There's rumors about that. Dejanay and her mom, again, shady, left town. And so the behavior of the family involved, it's not just the kids. People keep saying, why are you involving the parents? They are just as involved because they could be harboring these people, fleeing town. Khalil's mom's not even working the same job where she's working, allegedly. So the question is there a U.S. arrest warrant? That's the number one question. Have they already transferred this file or this extradition process? Has it already made its way through the Department of Justice, the Office of International Affairs? A former employee already said this case is cut and dry, so it shouldn't take them a whole month or 2 months, basically 2 months at this point, because December is almost over. It shouldn't take these competent attorneys in the Office of International Affairs to review that case. It's cut and dry, okay? Cut and dry. So, I mean, are they waiting on the FBI? Because I know the FBI could be timely. And it's probably the FBI that's slowing this whole thing down. But my question, guys, is do they know the location of Khalil, Malik, Dejanay, Dejanay, and Winter? Because those are the 4 people we have not been able to really pinpoint where they are. We know that they have ties. For example, we know allegedly that Dejanay and Malik have ties to Connecticut, and that Khalil has ties to Virginia. That's one of his hometown areas. But could it be that they're still looking for these people because of the business cards and other things like that? That's a question that is valid. Could that be what's slowing down the process? Because there's got to be some reason for why this cut and dry, straightforward case. And I understand, again, like I said, I know the extradition process. I actually did a whole video that you can watch that I go over it. But even with all that into consideration, it shouldn't take 2 months. We should at least be at the stage, like I said, where we have a U.S. warrant already. And then we should at least be at a stage where there's been an arrest. We should at least be there. And we should at least be at a stage where there has been an ID hearing by now. We should have been already watching this on TV for an ID hearing. That's what we should be seeing right now. Hearing about the ID hearing by now. That's where we should be at. I'm having an issue right now, and I'm questioning this whole case at this point, and I'm questioning what really is the FBI doing, and I'm also frustrated with their lack of information they're providing to Tequila and Tequila's mother. Tequila's mother, guys, is literally having a nervous breakdown. She was so upset she can barely speak. This woman, her whole fight, she is unable to really keep fighting, that she had to send her daughter. She had to pass the torch to her daughter This is really breaking this mother down, guys. This is sad to hear that. I'm going to play that part a little later, but I really wanted to focus right now on the whole arrest part. I'm kind of, like I said, I'm bouncing back and forth in this interview. But the fact that the mother is so upset that she can barely speak, guys, it's showing how much this delay is weighing on the mother. That's why it's like the FBI should at least have some type of process in their organization where they can at least give the parents something, just some little small piece of hope to say, hey, we've done A. We can't give you all the information, but we at least done A. Give them one little scrap of hope. Just give them something, because this is sad.
Dr. Bethany, that's a sad how do you do that the dead girl's sister and mother have to find out from WSOC, Joe Bruno, no offense to you, Bruno, that the cops are trying to find these women. I mean, and the one guy. Why do they have to hear it here on Crime Stories?
You know, Nancy, obviously I've never worked for the DOJ, but when I heard there is a business card tacked to one of the perps' doors, it seems just so paltry and so small, because you know these perpetrators, just like they videotaped everything, you know there's a web expanding outwards to their friends, their family, frantic calls, people they're trying to get in touch with to kind of cover up their tracks. So while I've never tracked somebody down, except for my own husband maybe, I've never tried to look for somebody, it seems like the track should be pretty clear. And, you know, when you've been a victim of a crime, the worst thing is ambiguity and the unknown. In the face of the unknown, I've said this so many times, we read our worst possible fears. Give the family something, give them a little drop of hope, a little tidbit, something that they can hold on to.
Well, you know.
Exactly. And did you hear this expert? One of the things she pointed out is that you want to track them to the family ties. That is why us looking at the background of each of the Cabo Six and their family members is imperative. And people, they kept saying, don't put the family involved. Well, on my platform, we are. So if you don't like stuff like that, then go to another platform. But this expert is also telling you that they're relevant, because who is helping these people in these different states? Family. Okay. Who fled their home with their kids? Parents. Khalil's mother left with him. She's helping and aiding and abetting this man from not being found if he hasn't been questioned by the FBI. She's assisting. She's a part of it. So she is relevant. And we are going to look her up. And we are going to look at pictures of her. We are going to analyze the background of this family, because we want to know who these people are. This is exactly what the FBI is doing. They're doing the same thing we're doing. Why can't we do it on our platforms? It's public information. It's on their Facebooks. They left it for public for everybody to see. So clearly they didn't want to be private. So since it's there, we're going to look at it. She even said it, that track the families down, because that's the people we want to look at. We want to look at where their hometowns are. That's what the FBI is doing. They're looking at where these people are they're originally from, where they normally reside, where do they have their families at. That's exactly what FBI does. And another thing she pointed out is give them some sense of hope. Give this family something. They need to revise their policies within their office. I get it that they don't want to compromise their cases, but in a case like this where it's cut and dry, we have a whole video. Everybody and their mother saw that video. We already know it's on the video. So what are you really hiding at this point? One of the things I can only guess that they're hiding is who is on the arrest warrant. I get it that they have to hide that because they don't want to disclose who that person is, because then that person, since they're not arrested yet, that will basically get them alert that they're on the arrest warrant and they would flee. So they don't want the person to know that they're looking for them. So a lot of times the authorities will keep it on the hush until they're ready to make their arrest. So that I get why they wouldn't disclose the information about who's on the warrant. That I get. But at least give them something. Say we're working on the documents. We're getting ready to, issue a warrant or something, a U.S. warrant or something. Give them a hope, because you are tearing this family apart. Poor mother. I feel so much pain for that mother, guys. The pain is just unbearable for this mother. She can't even speak anymore. She stopped doing interviews. That's sad. That is sad when the mother can't even fight anymore because she's feeling so hopeless.
Oh, another thing to Irv Brandt joining me, Senior Inspector at U.S. Marshal Service International Investigations Branch, was Chief Inspector at DOJ, Department of Justice, International Affairs. It goes on and on. He was also at the U.S. Embassy in Kingston, Jamaica. This happened in Mexico near Cabo. Irv, there is a trail a mile wide. And I'll tell you, number one thing to do, get their credit cards, get their subpoena, easy, show up, don't wait for them to mail them. Find out where they're charging and where those bills are going, where they hang out. I mean, do they charge every single day at the soup shop on the corner? Then go there and sit there and wait and get them. I guarantee you, finding their new cell numbers, finding where they're spending money, what ATM do they go to get their cash? That's how you're going to find them, Irv.
That's correct, Nancy. And I'm sure once the warrants are issued, the federal warrants are issued, the FBI, the U.S. Marshal Service, the local authorities will do exactly what you're talking about.
They're issued, Irv. They're issued.
I'm not talking about the arrest warrant out of Mexico. You can't arrest someone on a foreign arrest warrant. They have to be arrested once the U.S. District Court issues the extradition warrant. And to my knowledge, those haven't been issued yet.
You know, another thing I would do pronto?
Exactly, guys. That's the problem I have. Just like he said, at this point, the U.S. warrants haven't even been issued yet. So if the U.S. warrants haven't been issued yet, how could there have been a detain or an arrest? You can't do that. Okay, that's the number one thing I have to say for the people out there who keep lying about a warrant arrest when there wasn't. And number two, the other question in the issue that I have is what is taking so long to issue the U.S. arrest warrant? The person on that Mexico arrest warrant should already be arrested. What is taking long? I think it's because the FBI is the holdup. The FBI, they're doing their thorough, in-depth investigations like they always do, y'all, and they're the one that's the holdup. They keep digging and dabbling and whatever else. What else are you looking for, FBI? What are you looking for? They're the one that's holding this whole thing up because they got to do all their thorough, in-depth, and they're probably looking for particular people, like I said, and they haven't got to question those people yet. The 4 people I mentioned, Khalil possibly, Winter Donovan, Dejanay, and Malik. I think those 4 people. So I think the FBI is the holdup for why there hasn't been a U.S. arrest warrant yet. Because once the Mexico extradition documents come into America, they get sent to the DOJ. They don't just look at that and say, okay, let's move this along. No, they need to make sure there's actual enough evidence to show that there has been a crime committed. So that's what I'm saying. The FBI is the holdup at this point, and they need to just, what are they doing? They're the holdup why we don't have a U.S. arrest warrant. That's what I think. And it's oh gosh, it's frustrating, guys. It's getting frustrating.
I have college degrees, so they're not complete idiots. They did video a homicide, so they may be back in the idiot category.
They are.
But you know who the guy is. Who is the guy? What is his name?
Khalil Cook.
Say what?
Khalil Cook.
That's right, Khalil Cook.
Khalil Cook.
And he is no longer at his house. Is his mother still at his house?
Neither one of them are there. They're both gone.
Oh, so he's snugged up with mommy. Okay, yeah. Irv Brandt, what do we do now?
Track them all.
Track them both. Yeah, you're right.
And everyone associated with them, Nancy. They're not going to be able to get away once those U.S. warrants are issued. They're going to be taken into custody fairly quickly. I'm sure they're tracking them now in anticipation of the warrants. And then once they have the warrants, those people, however many warrants are issued, those people will be taken into custody. Then they will be extradited back to Mexico.
See, did you hear this expert? First, one thing I gotta commend Nancy Grace on is she allowed Tequila to say the exact name of one of the alleged perpetrators, Khalil Cook. A lot of the news stations you hear, they don't let them say the names. And so I like that she was like, call him out. What's his name, girl? What's his name? Khalil Cook. Okay. Then another issue I had, if you heard the sister say, Tequila said, is that Khalil Cook and his mother, they're a team, guys. They're a team. So she's just as much pertinent. We want to know about Miss Komika Penn. That's her name. Komika Penn. The reason why Khalil has Cook is he has his father's last name, just to clear that up. Her maiden name is Penn. But Komika Penn, who is Khalil's mother, she is just as involved. This woman took her son, went with her son, accompanied her son to the Robinsons' home and was joining in on this whole lie. And then had the nerve to lie and talk about her son was in a hospital. So she's just as relevant. We need to look at her. We're going to look at her real quick soon. We're going to do a video looking at her and her background because she's just as involved. And then she takes her and her son, knowing good and well this boy lied because of the evidence that came out. Because she knew Tequila and the mother, Salamandra, informed them of the autopsy results and that Shanquella had injuries or her neck was broke and her back was broke. She knew. Her mom, Khalil's mother knew this information. Because after that, guys, she started making excuses for Khalil, saying he was sick and all that. He was in a hospital. And then before you know it, they fled that house. They're not even there anymore. And she's not even working her job. So her behavior shows someone, in my opinion, who has a consciousness of guilt. And this expert said, track them all and everyone associated with them. That's what the expert said. Track them all and everyone associated with them. So why can't the bloggers, the YouTube bloggers out here track them all and everyone associated with them? The experts just said it. Yeah, let's track them all and everyone associated with them because they're assisting in harboring and hiding these fugitives, in my opinion, who assisted Dejanay, allegedly, in taking this young lady's life prematurely in the most worst way. She doesn't get to celebrate her birthday next month, January 6th. That is unacceptable. Jealousy should not be a death sentence for this young lady or anyone else's life. Because that's what this is. Jealousy was a death sentence. It's frustrating. Sorry, guys, I got a little emotional.
What's happening? What do you know? You know, these other women went to college with her. And I would say, they have college degrees, so they're not complete idiots. They did video a homicide, so they may be back in the idiot category.
They are.
But you know who the guy is. Who is the guy? What is his name?
Khalil Cook.
Say what?
Khalil Cook.
That's right, Khalil Cook.
Khalil Cook.
And he is no longer at his house. Is his mother still at his house?
Neither one of them out there. They're both gone.
Oh, so he's snugged up with mommy. Okay, yeah. Irv Brandt, what do we do now?
Track them all.
Track them both. Yeah, you're right.
And everyone associated with them, Nancy. They're not going to be able to get away once those U.S. warrants are issued. They're going to be taken into custody.
And here's my other theory, guys. The FBI might be taking a long time because they're not just investigating the person that's on the arrest warrant. They're likely looking into each and every one of the Cabo Six to find out what, if anything, is their culpable involvement in this, meaning what type of crimes that they possibly committed, such as being an accomplice, so forth. Because they may want to they are doing the legwork for the Mexican authorities. The Mexican authorities only have been able to sustain the first warrant because that's all the evidence they really have based upon the video. That's really what they have. So they're using the U.S. FBI to do an extended investigation, their own investigation, because they may be looking into each one of the Cabo Six to find out what is the culpable responsibility of each of them, what possible criminal behavior could they be responsible for? Because maybe they want to wrap this all up into one extradition to say, look, hey, Mexican authorities, this is the other evidence we found out on Cabo 1, Cabo 2, Cabo 3 individual, Cabo 4 individual, and looking to see if maybe you want to issue more warrants for those people also, so we can just wrap this up into one sitting, one whole process, instead of us doing 6 different separate extraditions. So that could also be, you guys, a reason. Now I thought about it. That could be a reason why there's a delay, because they're not just looking into the one person that has the arrest warrant. They may be looking into all 6 to see what, if any, are their culpable responsibilities, to see if they can wrap this up into one big extradition to say, you know, here, Mexican authorities, here's the evidence we have. Do you want to issue any more warrants while you're at it, so we can get this thing wrapped up, you know, in one whole process to be more efficient? So that could be a reason, guys, because I'm hearing this expert and he's talking about multiple warrants, and we already know there's only been one warrant right now. So they may be looking into each and every one of these Cabo 6 so that they can find out what, if any, criminal behavior they could be responsible for. That, in my opinion, could be why it's delayed so long. But even then, y'all doing too much. Y'all should at least already have this girl arrested, because at this point, it's getting frustrating. It really is.
Fairly quickly. I'm sure they're tracking them now in anticipation of the warrants. And then once they have the warrants, those people, you know, however many warrants are issued, those people will be taken into custody. Then they will be extradited back to Mexico. They don't have a political leg to stand on. We extradite people back and forth between the U.S. and Mexico on a daily basis. It's going to happen.
Dr. Tim Gallagher, a medical examiner for the state of Florida. You can find him at pathcaremed.com. You and I have both reviewed the video that these idiots shot while Shanquella is being killed. I'm just going to go out on a limb, because according to the autopsy report, she died within 15 minutes of the blow to the head. What? And I try not to do it, Dr. Gallagher, but I keep putting my little girl, I keep thinking, what if I was having to look at this video and it was my girl or my son? And I can't even imagine what Miss Robinson is going through. Could you detail for people that have not seen the video, and Fox Nation, I hope you're running it, what this girl, Shanquella, went through?
Okay, guys, this is a very important part that I need everyone to listen in on. Very important part. This doctor who is going to speak right now is going to go into detail for you exactly what Shanquella may have been possibly experiencing when she was internally decapitated. When she sustained that injury where her neck was broke and her back was snapped, he is going to go into detail. You're literally going to be able to be placed into the position of Shanquella and know what she was going through. And I'm telling you, it is horrific. So please, everybody, if drop what you're doing, I need you to listen to this part, because this is a very, very traumatic but important part. If you don't like things like this, then tune out right now. But if you want to know what Shanquella was possibly experiencing when she sustained her neck injury where her neck was snapped, basically decapitated, and her back, this is the part to really listen in on.
State of Florida. You can find him at pathcaremed.com. You and I have both reviewed the video that these idiots shot while Shanquella is being killed. I'm just going to go out on a limb, because according to the autopsy report, she died within 15 minutes of the blow to the head. What? And I try not to do it, Dr. Gallagher, but I keep putting my little girl, I keep thinking, what if I was having to look at this video and it was my girl or my son. And I can't even imagine what Miss Robinson is going through. Could you detail for people that have not seen the video, and Fox Nation, I hope you're running it, what this girl, Shanquella, went through with her friends?
Certainly the trauma is, it's just, well, number one, it's disgusting. The entire episode, the entire situation is just absolutely disgusting. After she got attacked, she felt every blow to her body. And when she got the fatal blow to the head, you can feel that within your body. You can feel your bones breaking. You can feel the paralysis come over you. You are unable to defend yourself. You have no connection to your arms and your legs any further. So you cannot move. You cannot walk. You are 100% totally helpless. But still you are conscious. You are still conscious for part of that time. And you can still see the people around you. You are still very aware of the violent situation around you. You can still hear the voices of the people, who are attacking you.
But she wouldn't be able to move, right? Because her spine had been severed?
Right. She would be 100% paralyzed. And she would not be able to move her arms, her legs. She would not even be able to speak. But she still would be able to hear, and she still would be able to see. And that's the horror of the entire situation. You'd still be able to understand what you're hearing. You'll still be able to see the violence around you, even though your spinal cord was severed. Yes.
A few moments.
Wow, guys. Oh my gosh. Did you hear that? First and foremost, he said you could feel your bones breaking. You could feel the cracking of your bones. Then you could feel the paralysis starting to come upon your body. But you can't move or anything. And I feel like that was the last part of the video where her head was hanging low. She could hear all the cursing and the yelling, the girl telling her to get up and fight, but she couldn't move. She could hear everything, but was helpless. And all these people she could see, literally Khalil and everybody sitting there watching her as she's dying, guys, could feel her bones cracking. Oh my gosh. And the paralysis coming upon her. Oh my gosh, guys, let's play that again. That was, wow. I got to play that one more time, guys. I just got to play it one more time.
What it says on the autopsy report, and that's what Dr. Gallagher is describing. It also says person found unconscious on her living room floor, and we know her to be naked at the time of the attack. Her mom told me that Shanquella sleeps without her clothes on, as many people do, and it looked like it was by the bed. I mean,
don't have any information on whether
still off, Joe Bruno.
Yeah, the medical examiner's report is clear as day. Found in her living room, died within 15 minutes of her injuries. I don't have any information on whether she was clothed or whether her body was moved. I do know.
And that we know he's in the room, though, because once the dude that is videoing it, when he panned the phone a little, you can see him on the left. Khalil is standing on the left.
Again, they're on video. Hello, local police. So the fact, Jackie pointed out to me, her body is found in.
That's the horror of the entire situation. You'd still be able to understand what you're hearing.
I'm just going to go out on a limb, because according to the autopsy report, she died within 15 minutes of the blow to the head. What? And I try not to do it, Dr. Gallagher, but I keep putting my little girl, I keep thinking, for people that have not seen the video, and Fox Nation, I hope.
Entire episode, the entire situation is just absolutely disgusting. After she got attacked, she felt every blow to her body. And when she got the fatal blow to the head, you can feel that within your body. You can feel your bones breaking.
Wow, guys, when she got the fatal blow to the head, you can feel your bones breaking. This was traumatic, guys. This was a very traumatic death. And the sad part is Shanquella has to be on this interview and she has to hear this about her sister. This is horrific. But this is really preparing her sister because, when the trial happens in Mexico, she will have to hear this stuff again. So at least they're preparing her for this because this is how a trial normally is. They go over all this in trials. So they're at least preparing her. But that's just sad that Shanquella had to be on the line and hear this, that when Shanquella had the fatal blow to the head, she could literally feel her neck snapping and her back snapping. My gosh. Wow, guys, this is horrendous.
You can feel the paralysis come over you. You are unable to defend yourself. You have.
Wow, so immediately once that fatal blow happened, she could feel her bones breaking, and then she could feel slowly the paralysis coming on her, and she is not able to defend herself even if she wanted to. She could not defend herself once the fatal blow happened. Imagine being that helpless that you can't even move, and then you're watching yourself fade away as the person you thought was your best friend, Khalil, stands there and watches you. This girl died a horrendous death. And the emotional aspect of her knowing that her friend is there watching her die, that is horrific. The last moments on earth, witnessing the betrayal as you're helpless, feeling your bones crack and the paralysis come upon you. Man, this Shanquella went through it, guys. She went through a horrific death. That is so sad. This poor girl, man. She did not deserve this at all. Dang, man, that's sad. Jealousy was a death sentence. That's messed up.
It is videoing it. When he panned the phone a little, you can see him on the left. Khalil is standing on the left.
Again, they're on video. She held up that Shanquella was not found in the bedroom where we see her getting beaten as her friend guy. Is that who's videoing it, Quilla? It's the guy videoing it?
That's one of them.
Oh.
That's not the actual friend that we know. He's in the room, though, because once the dude that is videoing it, when he panned the phone a little, you can see him on the left. Khalil is standing on the left.
Again, they're.
And we already knew this, but it's really good to have the reinforcement and the confirmation from Shanquella, who knows, at least Khalil. She confirms that the person recording allegedly was Malik, and that when you pan the camera to the left, it's Khalil's beard that she's seen. She identified him as Khalil. So we at least have someone who's involved, who's had interactions with Khalil. She identified him as the person on the left. So we know allegedly he wasn't the one recording. He was standing there looking like a coward as his friend was being brutally unalived. So it's just good to hear from her to confirm that for us, because all of us, we weren't there. We don't have the personal knowledge of any of these individuals. But for Shanquella to identify him as the person on the left, that gives us some solid confirmation versus our own personal speculation.
On video, hello, local police. So the fact that Jackie pointed out to me, her body is found in the living room, which Joe Bruno, WSOC TV, that leads me to think that, once she hit the floor, she couldn't move anymore. They severed her spine, it looks like in the video. Did they drag her into the living room to make it appear as if she had been in there? Not that they woke her up and then started attacking her, Joe, because Jackie's telling me that she's found on the living room floor. And that's from the autopsy report, right?
It's in the, yes, it's
Yep.
listed there.
Yeah, it is. She's right. What does that say to you, Joe Bruno?
Oh, and is she found with her clothes on or off?
Off, still off, Joe Bruno.
Yeah, the medical examiner's report is clear as day. Found in her living room, died within 15 minutes of her injuries. I don't have any information on whether she was clothed or whether her body was moved. I do know that, and Quilla can also talk about this, that she had bumps on her face, her lips were cut, she clearly was showing signs of severe injury when she died.
Severe spinal cord injury and atlas luxation. That's what it says on the autopsy report. And that's what Dr. Gallagher is describing. It also says person found unconscious on her living room floor. And we know her to be naked at the time of the attack. Her mom told me that Shanquella sleeps without her clothes on, as many people do. And it looked like it was by the bed and the covers were thrown back. Remember the video, Jackie? And it looked like she had just gotten up and they immediately started beating her. So how does she get in the living room? Dr. Bethany, I don't know if she was clothed or not at the time the doctors got there, but since she died pretty quickly, I doubt it. Okay, Joe Bruno.
And a lot of us pointed that out because, number one, this woman was already brutally, fatally injured in her room, in her master bedroom. And we also did talk about on my prior video, several weeks ago, that I identified that this happened in the morning hours of October 29th when she was woke up like that. She was ambushed. They planned this thing out in the morning. I don't know if it was in the morning they planned it or the night, but Dejanay couldn't sleep at night. She was so angry and so jealous of Shanquella. She went to confront her, woke this poor Shanquella girl out of her bed. That's the sad part about it. No respect. Man, no respect for privacy, nothing. Just ambush Shanquella, right? So we know that. Now, the issue with the whole how did she get in the living room, these sickos dressed this girl allegedly with her pajamas on, because we heard there was some allegations that she had pajamas on when she was found. So they allegedly clothed this girl, trying to cover the situation up. They did not leave her naked when that doctor came, allegedly. They were trying to cover this up, guys. So they wanted to make it look like it was, that she really did, have some type of alcohol poisoning. So they weren't going to leave her naked like that. They probably put that clothes on her for her and moved her into the living room. Shady, trying to make it look like something it wasn't. Trying to cover up their whole tracks because they were all involved. It sounds like they were teaming up in a conspiracy. That's what it sounds like to me, in my opinion. And allegedly, again, this is just an opinion, a disclaimer. This is my opinion. I was not there, but this is just my analysis based upon the allegations that we have so far.
In the living room, which Joe Bruno, WSOC TV, that leads me to think that, once she hit the floor, she couldn't move anymore. They severed her spine, it looks like in the video. Did they drag her into the living room to make it appear as if she had been in there? Not that they woke her up and then started attacking her, Joe, because Jackie's telling me that she's found on the living room floor. And that's from the autopsy report, right?
It's in the, yes, it's listed there.
Yeah, it is. She's right. What does that say to you, Joe Bruno?
Oh, and is she found with her clothes on or off?
Off, still off, Joe Bruno.
Yeah, the medical examiner's report is clear as day. Found in her living room, died within 15 minutes of her injuries. I don't have any information on whether she was clothed or whether her body was moved. I do know that, and Quilla can also talk about this, that she had bumps on her face, her lips were cut, she clearly was showing signs of severe injury when she died.
Severe spinal cord injury and atlas luxation. That's what it says on the autopsy report. And that's what Dr. Gallagher is describing. It also says person found unconscious on her living room floor. And we know her to be naked at the time of the attack. Her mom told me that Shanquella sleeps without her clothes on, as many people do. And it looked like it was by the bed and the covers were thrown back. Remember the video, Jackie? and it looked like she had just gotten up and they immediately started beating her. So how does she get in the living room? Dr. Bethany, I don't know if she was clothed or not at the time the doctors got there, but since she died pretty quickly, I doubt it. Okay, Joe Bruno, I'm just stymied because I'm not sure what, if anything, is happening to bring this mother justice for her daughter. I mean, I don't know if you have children, but all I can think about is my children, one of them going away on a girl's getaway, and then suddenly I get a call, she's dead.
It's incredibly frustrating to not be able to provide a lot of information or even have an inkling of what's going on. I hold on to the fact that I did find that business card taped to the door associated with one of the people that went on this trip. And also just this.
And again, that he's holding on to, that was several weeks ago, guys. We covered that on my platform a couple weeks ago, guys. It's been so long. It's at least been 2 weeks ago, maybe early December, maybe, when we talked about that. So what has happened after that? That's the thing. What has happened after that?
This case has captivated Charlotte and really the world. Millions of people are watching this. Hundreds of people showed up to a vigil for Shanquella over the weekend. Black social media users in particular are demanding justice. And
the arrest, Charlotte PD, Irv Brandt, jump in. The FBI, who should be arresting these people that were involved in her death?
Oh, Nancy, any law enforcement, it could be the U.S. Marshal Service, and it more than likely will go to a task force made up of everyone that I just said to locate the fugitive. FBI
with pain
particular are demanding justice and keeping this story alive.
And we are trying to do just that. Another vigil over the weekend where Shanquella's mother is just twisted in half with pain. Joe Bruno, who is responsible for the arrest? Charlotte PD? Irv Brandt, jump in. The FBI? Who should be arresting these people that were involved in her death?
Oh, Nancy, any law enforcement, it could be the U.S. Marshal Service, and it more than likely will go to a task force made up of everyone that I just said to locate the fugitive and take them into custody.
If you have information about these so-called friends.
Right. So that's the thing is the FBI, the U.S. Marshal, and the local police department or a task force, they need to get moving. Because we need to have we need to at least have an arrest or something for this family. Come on now. What's the judge doing? Has the judge received the complaint yet? What's going on? What is going on?
7.
There's a hot new podcast.
Family. Try to put the words "in Mexico" out of your head, because the crime that's happening right now is not her. Okay, try to put the words "in Mexico" out of your head. Ina, she is finishing up her business degree at school. She has a loving family. So how does this beautiful girl, she's 25, Shanquella, end up dead at a luxury resort in Mexico? Okay, try to put the words "in Mexico" out of your head, because the crime that's happening right now is not her murder in Mexico. It's happening right here, I believe, in North Carolina, where the perps are hiding out.
And that is exactly what Nancy Grace is doing right there. She is calling out the authorities involved, the investigative individuals involved in North Carolina and the North Carolina FBI and so forth. She's saying the crime is the lack of progress in this case. That is what she's saying. She is exposing and calling out the lack of progress in the criminal investigation of Shanquella Robinson. She's saying, what I find problematic is it was bad enough when this tragedy happened. The Mexican authorities tried to minimize the situation. They tried to claim it was an accident, try to wrap it up in a bow, and basically say it was alcohol poisoning, like they have historically done in a lot of femicide cases in Mexico. Not just with this American, but a lot of Mexican women who have been brutalized and unalived in Mexico. They always try to claim it's alcohol poisoning. That already was an injustice to the Robinsons family. Now they have to face another injustice with the lack of progress in America, in North Carolina, with the criminal investigation involved, because now they have to deal with not getting information, the lack of progress. This is not similar to the Idaho 4 case. The Idaho 4 case, they don't even have a suspect. They're scrambling to try to figure out what's going on. This case, we actually have the perpetrator, allegedly. We have her on camera with individuals recording, and we can hear their voices, and there's witnesses that can identify who was in the video. There's records from the villa showing they signed in. Their names are on everybody who was in that villa was signed into that the records, and they have their passport information. They have so much information in this case. So why is it taking this long? Which is the only thing I can think of is they're trying to look for some of those Cabo 4 people who fled, y'all. And they probably are trying to just do this thorough investigation to try to see who they can incriminate or who they can find who has some type of responsibility or culpable responsibility in this case, in addition to the person identified on the warrant. And they're just trying to do their whole entire investigation of all the Cabo 6 instead of just narrowing it down to the one person on the Mexican arrest warrant. That's the only thing I can think of, because I'm like, what's taking so long? I'm with Nancy Grace. Okay, it was already an injustice in Mexico. Now there's an injustice going on with the lack of progress in this criminal investigation, in my opinion. I'm with Nancy on this.
Here in the U.S. are doing nothing to get justice in the murder of this 25-year-old beauty. And when I say beauty, I mean beauty on the inside and the out. You know how hard that is to find somebody who's really gorgeous on the outside, and on the inside, they're just as gorgeous. Okay. Why is the mother, Shanquella's mother, why did she have to send her other daughter to be with us today? Because she is so upset she can barely speak.
Wow, did you guys hear that? Dang, this broke me down when Nancy Grace said Salamandra had to send her daughter because she was so upset that she could barely speak. And I don't even think upset is the right word. And one of the things she's really upset with is the lack of progress and the lack of information she's getting. They have already got the turnaround repeatedly from Mexico authorities, and they were advised initially during this case, before it got publicized, they told the Robinson family to get their own investigator, to hire an investigator to find out what happened. So they already been disrespected and had injustices as it related to the Mexican officials. But now it's causing a more grave discomfort in the family, especially the mother at this point. She's literally breaking down, guys. She can no longer sustain herself and keep on with the fight, because it's as if the U.S. officials are dragging their feet. It is so sad that she literally had to send her daughter. And this is not the first time I heard this. Tequila talked about this on the platform with NC Beat when she did her interview. Just, I think last week she did an interview, or 2 weeks ago, whatever. She did an interview recently with NC Beat, and she talked about the same thing, that her mother is upset and can barely speak and can't even do interviews anymore. She's rejecting interviews because she's so broke down. And it's due to the lack of progress in the criminal investigation. And the other problem is we got these YouTubers and people out here trying to get money, allegedly, and they're making up these lies about arrests. And then when the parent mother goes and checks in with the FBI, finds out it, it's not true. They can't disclose. Then she's back to an emotional state again. Because it's like you gave her a piece of hope and then the hope gets ripped away. It's so sad, man, to hear her say that, guys. Man, mom is so upset she can barely speak.
Why are we dropping the ball? Why don't we just go up to Lady Justice and rip away her shield and take her sword and put it in the Dixie dumpster? We are not seeking justice for this girl. And it will be a day that hell freezes over that I stop seeking justice for Shanquella Robinson.
And see, that's why I like Nancy Grace. Did you hear? She said it'll be where hell freezes over before she stops seeking justice for Shanquella. This woman, no matter what people say about her past, she's fighting for Shanquella, and she has a big platform, and she's pretty powerful in her platform, and she gets a lot of media. And that the fact that she cares enough to go through all ends to get justice for Shanquella, I take my hat off to her. And I'm really happy to see that she's joined in on this fight, and she's using her big influential platform to advocate. That right there, when I heard her say that, it just made me have a new level of respect for her, because Shanquella is a African-American young lady, and a lot of times our cases don't get the publicity on the major platforms that we deserve. And for this woman to take on this case and really be willing to sacrifice it all for Shanquella until she sees justice, that's major, guys, because we have someone on this case that's advocating, who's powerful, who has a major influence. And people may think, oh, she's just a little platform, whatever. She can't influence the officials. Yes, she can. To heck, she can. Because the more people hear about it, the more exposure she's giving this case, and the more emotional and passionate she speaks about the case, the more people get involved, and the more voices get involved, and the more influence and the more change we will see. So I really admired her to say that.
I'm Nancy Grace. We are not seeking justice for this girl. And it will be a day that hell freezes over that I stop seeking justice for Shanquella Robinson. I'm Nancy Grace.
That's powerful. Because I'm hearing a lot of bloggers, some people comment on my post saying, oh, Nancy Grace was sued or blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Who cares? She is taking on this case, and she is showing that she cares, and she's pouring her heart out, and she is really fighting for this young lady. And I like that she has obtained some professionals, some experts, people who have actually been employed in the Office of International Affairs, different people that we heard in this live and we just heard from, that really helped give us detailed information that we need to figure out what's going on. And also the detail of more breaking down what the extradition process is, what officials are going to be involved in the arrest, which one of the experts outlined was the FBI, the U.S. Marshal, and the local police department, or they would formulate some form of a task force. So we're getting a lot more information from this platform, and she's given us 48 minutes worth, where we won't get that from ABC. We're not going to get that from Dateline or the other ones. They're going to give us a little 8-minute interview, or they're going to give the family a little 8-minute interview, but she really is going in detail. She's calling out the big guns. She's bringing in all the experts. She's bringing in physicians. She is really breaking this case down as if we're in a jury trial. Okay. She literally did the jury trial for us. So I'm giving her kudos. Okay.
This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us here at foxnation.com. How many times have I said to a jury, Kathleen, I'm bringing you all this evidence. What do you want? A video? Well, in this case, we have a video, because not only did her girlfriends that she went away to this luxe vacation just down a hop, skip, and a jump down the road from where Jennifer Aniston hangs out in Cabo all the time. Right down from that.
I'm going to trial today, and I have a video.
Yeah, this girl is being murdered in her luxury suite bedroom being beaten dead by one of her friend girls, and another person is videoing it. She is dead, and there's a video, Kathleen.
I cried when I saw that video. I posted on my personal Facebook page. But Nancy, my question is, did these folks plan this?
Exactly. One thing she points out is the video. Any prosecutor would tell you it is a prosecutor's dream to have a video, because it really gives the evidentiary process solid evidence. You have very solid direct evidence. Although a prosecutor can prove their case with circumstantial evidence and direct, it is a prosecutor's dream to have it on video. So the fact that we have a video evidence, it should be cut and dry, the evidence. This should not be, and I know they have all the hearings they got to do, but come on, y'all. Y'all should at least have an arrest, a U.S. extradition, U.S. arrest warrant, at least have that part of this done. At least. We just need some type of progress. That's all we're asking for. Some type of progress. Although we know there's an international extradition, there's different layers to that, different entities involved, the executive branch is involved. We know that. But where's the U.S. arrest warrant? That's what I'm asking for. Where's that? You have it on camera. If this happened in the U.S., guys, if this whole thing happened in the U.S. and it wasn't an international issue, there would have been an arrest by now, because they would already know who did the act. It's on camera, and they would already know who's videotaping. They already have all that stuff there. So what is going on with the warrant part, the U.S. warrant? Why don't we have a U.S. warrant? Why haven't they? At least, why haven't the Department of Justice looked at all this stuff and the Office of International Affairs? Why haven't they sent that complaint over to the judge so that they can issue the U.S. extradition warrant? What is going on? We have direct evidence, like she's mentioning. That's why she keeps mentioning the video, because any prosecutor will tell you having a video is a gift to a prosecutor. We love videos because it's the direct evidence. It really solidifies and strengthens your case when you have a video.
Crime that occurred in Mexico, in the United States, and if so, why are they not arrested right now for planning that crime, even though it occurred in the United States?
Okay, as I often say, Kathleen Murphy, I don't know if they taught you this in law school. I learned it in the courtroom. Screw them and the horse they rode in on. All right? I don't care if they planned it here, planned it in the hall, planned it in the doorway as they walked in her bedroom. She is dead because of a break to her spine. And you see in the video them waking. She doesn't have on any clothes. She sleeps without any clothes on. She's getting out of bed and they start beating her and hitting her in the head. And to you, Dr. Tim Gallagher, medical examiner, state of Georgia at pathcaremed.com, Dr. Gallagher, a medical examiner, has told me, in fact, I think it was you, that those blows to the head you see on the video, they think it's funny. They're videoing killing the girl. That in one of those videos, part of it, you see her head go down like to the right with such force, she never gets up off the floor, off sitting on the carpet again.
Now listen in on this part, because this part's really going to transition to she's having her expert talk about, could the injury, the internal decapitation, could it have occurred with the beatings that we saw on the video that we have alone, just the information we have that was released to the public? Could Shanquella have sustained the internal decapitation and her back being snapped with the information we have on the video? So this part is very important to listen to.
She dies right there. Did you see the beating in the video, Dr. Gallagher?
I did, and at that point it looked like her spine was broken or her neck was broken, so it appeared as though the
Wow, so the doctor right now, he just said it looked like her spine was already broken, her neck was broken. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. He is already identifying the injury. An expert, a doctor who can identify these injuries, said that he can identify the moment in which Shanquella's spine and her neck was already broken in the video. And I think it was that very last part when you see her on the ground and how her neck is limped over and her back is hunched down. She's hunched down. That is where he's identifying where she sustained the internal decapitation and her back being broke. But that's amazing how he was able to identify it in the video. We haven't even saw the whole video. We got just a clip, and he was able to identify where the fatal injury happened.
Cervical.
She dies right there. Did you see the beating in the video, Dr. Gallagher?
I did, and at that point it looked like her spine was broken or her neck was broken. So it appeared as though the cervical vertebral column was dislocated from the skull itself. So in that, we call that an internal decapitation, but it was a violent blow and it was a violent outcome, and it was just absolutely sad and no reason for it. That brought about her instantaneous demise.
Okay, right there. There's another cover up because according to police, she died 3 hours later. That did not happen. If you look at the actual death certificate, which I have right here in front of me, she died after just 15 minutes max. I don't know why the cops are saying 3 hours later, but.
So if you heard Nancy Grace, she's identifying where there was the police cover up. That whole police report that they wrote was a lie, allegedly. A lie, which is why I have issues with that doctor. I did a whole video on the doctor and her background and stuff, and people were asking, why do you have an issue with the doctor? Because if she's so trained in what she does, and she has at least experience being a doctor dating back to 2016, she should already knew that this girl was passed away. She died within 15 minutes of her injury, so she was already passed away by the time the maid came in there. The maid talked about touching Shanquella, and she was hard, meaning she already reached rigor mortis, meaning she had been already passed away for several hours. So again, there was a cover-up going on with the doctor and the authorities, the law enforcement that came and wrote that fake report. And you had to really ask, well, then there definitely had been some shady stuff going on. Did they pay these cops? Did they pay the doctor off? There has to be a question of that. And there is a lot of issues that go on in Mexico when it comes to that type of situation of paying stuff. And this is an American dying in the villa, which could cause people to not, or deter Americans from wanting to stay at that villa, deter Americans from wanting to travel to Mexico. So it created an incentive in their mind to make it appear as though this was an accident so that they can cover up any type of responsibility or any bad shade that goes towards the Mexican authorities. And I just appreciate that Nancy Grace pointed out there where the shadiness occurred.
You know what? I need to catch a lot of people up. I want to tell you with me a very special guest today. Quilla, thank you for being with us. This is Shanquella's sister. What is your sister's nickname? I know you did not call her Shanquella all the time.
I called her Gotti.
Say what?
My nickname to her was Gotti. Godget. Gotti.
I kind of hate that you're hearing everything we're talking about, like cause of death and the internal decapitation, which means when your head is severed from the rest of your spine, but the skin is still in place. So inside in your spine, you've been decapitated, but your head is still sitting on your body. Everybody, I want you to hear our friends at ABC listen.
So Tequila at least got to share with us another nickname for Shanquella, which is Gotti. So we at least got to learn another different aspect of Shanquella, what people call her, to learn a different piece of who she is. But those are essentially the parts of the video. Yeah, I literally played most of the video for you, like 90% of it, because it was just so much good stuff in there. I couldn't resist. It was so good, guys. It was so good. The stuff that they really broke down in this video, in this part 2, that, Nancy Grace did another part 2. She's really dedicated. I really appreciate that she was willing to do a part 2 and really go into detail and highlight the problem with there not being an arrest. What's going on? Why is it taking them so long? Like, this is problematic. You guys have, the authorities have direct evidence. They have a video. It's not like this is a circumstantial case where they're looking for who did it. For example, in the Idaho 4 case, they're trying to figure out in that case who did it. I get why it's taking long over there. But this case, where you actually have a video of the person and the alleged accomplices right there, what is going on? You should at least have an arrest warrant by now. So guys, I'm sorry I just went off on this video. Let me see what you guys have to say about this before we close out. Oh, look. Okay. Hi, Jules. How are you doing, love? She said, oh, I almost forgot before I leave. They have put up the villa for rental. They don't say anything about something happened there. Exactly, Jules. They're covering up, girl. They are covering up. That is shady. They're trying to cover up this whole mess, y'all. Hi, Crystal. Hi, everybody in the chat. Sorry, guys. I got so caught up in this live and this new bombshell information that Nancy Grace went over with the experts. I really like that she gave us expert opinions about the arrest, what's going on with that, so forth. But Crystal says doctor definitely involved in the cover-up. Exactly, for sure, because it doesn't medically make sense. It doesn't. If the death certificate says, based upon the fatal injuries that Shanquella had, she could not have lasted past 15 minutes. She was already deceased by the time the doctor got there. So by the time the doctor got there, I highly doubt that doctor rendered any aid. I highly doubt that she did a CPR. I highly doubt that she did gave it the IV. I don't think any of that happened. I think that was all made up, in my opinion. I think they sat there and they were trying to fabricate and figure out what they were going to do to cover this up, because the Mexican authorities and the villa and all of them did not want it to be known or released that American died at their villa. Because it's all about money at the end of the day. And it has been common in Mexico that they always come up with the excuse of alcohol poisoning when a woman dies in Mexico. Hi, Ellen. How are you, love? There's Ellen is in the chat. Yes, I do think the doctor needs to be locked up. According to some sources, though, allegedly, they say that the doctor may just get a fine. And allegedly, guys, she's still working. She's still working at the same job she has. She's actually working at 3 different hospitals right now. She has 3 different jobs, but she still has all her same jobs. Oh, okay. Let me hear from Dango Russ. Yeah. This is true about what Dango Russ is saying. The problem is Mexico evidence is suspect, right? President Joe Biden and the DOJ is not sending an American citizen back to Mexico with suspect evidence. Exactly. Police report and autopsy. Right. That's true. That's true, that's very true what Dango is saying. Which is why I did already acknowledge in the beginning that FBI is doing their own independent investigation of all of the information involved. They have to do their own separate investigation. It's as if they have to make sure that whatever Mexico sent over is valid information. So that part is true. I already understand all of that. I'm just saying, dang Jay, they should at least have enough evidence by now to at least issue the U.S. arrest warrant for the one person. I'm saying they should at least have enough by now, because that video was supplied by a U.S. citizen, okay? The video depicting the beating. But exactly what Dango Russ said, that is correct. That is correct. I already talked about that before on other videos, is that for sure, no, it's very difficult to extradite an American back to another country. This is different. This is not a situation where the U.S. is asking for another country to extradite their citizen to us. This is different, whereas we're sending our American citizen over to another country. But mind you, Dan J. Russ, we have a treaty with Mexico. So it's a little different. It's a little different. When we have a treaty with Mexico, normally we honor the treaty. We honor those extraditions. We are subject to that treaty. So yes, the FBI is doing their own investigation. My question is, which is what I said I had originally, is at least they should be at a stage where they're at least doing an arrest. They have a video. Allegedly, they're going around talking to the Cabo 6. So the only thing I could think of is if they probably can't find some of the Cabo 6, which I mean, some 4 of them are missing. That's the problem. 4 of them, we haven't really heard much about Winter, where she's at, where Khalil is. Khalil is in conspiracy with his mom because his mom, team mom, Komika Penn, and her son Khalil Cook are a little team. conspiring. They sat there and moved out the house. She quit her job and they're out somewhere, probably in Virginia somewhere, hiding out. So that's the issue I have, y'all. They probably hide down. That's probably why the FBI is having to hang up, because they're trying to figure out where these people are. But pretty sure FBI can figure that out, because all they have to do is pull credit cards and bills to see where they're at, where they're making these payments at. So they should have already found these people. So I'm figuring out, maybe they're trying to look into like I said, they're doing that autopsy. They could be doing a toxicology test just to refute any type of claim that she was under the influence of drugs or alcohol. They could be just doing that to refute that as an issue, because that's one of the allegations they had. Because they did do their own autopsy. They did, allegedly. That's what Bernard said. Bernard did he did a first interview with NCB, and on that NCB, he said that the FBI was doing another autopsy before the funeral. So, but still, I know they have to do their own investigation, but this is taking a little too long when we have a video at least. Okay? And like Mim Bamunda says, please, let's come together strong for her. They cannot get away with this. Exactly. So on my video that I did when I talked about Tequila's interview with NC Beat, I put a pinned comment with all the numbers you can call. I'm going to pin another one to this one so you can have that information here also in the comments of this video after I close it out. But we need to come together. We need to be calling these authorities. That's not called harassment. People saying, oh, that's harassment. No, these are government officials that are responsible for getting justice for Shanquella. So we're calling them, and we're being professional. You're going to all be professional. If you're on my platform, you need to call professional and be polite, but ask, hey, I'm calling to see what's the status with the Shanquella Robinson case. It's been 2 months. We're trying to see what's going on. They're not going to give you any information. They're just going to tell you we can't give you information. But the more people call, the more pressure it puts on them. Believe you me, they get all these numbers of people calling. They're gonna be like, okay, we need to figure something out. We need to at least give something, because these people out here doing too much. Okay? Please be professional when you call the government officials, though. Please be polite. If you're on my platform, I'm all about love and harmony and kindness. So polite and professionalism, okay? And emphasize if you can at least leave a voicemail or something with one of the government officials. Right, like Jules says, unless people start calling the State Department, the Department of Justice, and the Attorney General, then nothing will be done. Exactly. Thank you, Jules. I know she already left, but thank you, love. Exactly, okay? She is right. We need to do something, y'all, because the case is dying down. Not a lot of people are talking about this case anymore. You notice the numbers are starting to go down. Not many bloggers are really reporting on it. Barely people are reporting on it. And if they are, they're reporting on the same stuff. I'm trying to give new stuff or look into the Cabo 6 family, which I'm really starting to do now. I'm going to look into Khalil next. Because, I mean, Elise, I already kind of went into her a lot, but I didn't really talk about her parents. I kind of went a little bit into her mom's Facebook, but I didn't really go into detail about her mom. So I'll probably do just a quick live about that. I don't want to really repeat all the stuff about the law enforcement sister, because I already broke that information like 2 weeks ago. I'm already ahead of that. If you guys have been on my platform, we already talked about her sister being a law enforcement 2 weeks ago. That's 2 week old news. And then I repeated it again on another video. So that's just too much repeating that. Yeah, I know they have a process. I'm just hoping that it leads to justice. Exactly, Chi-Chi. Hi, Chi-Chi. It's so wonderful to see Chi-Chi back. That's my girl. She's been loyal. There's Ellen. My girl Ellen is in the chat. Love you guys. Good to see you. Right. This is getting frustrating right here. This right here where Lori is saying, you also have a lot of these YouTubers slamming Quella's parents, and that's not cool. Yeah, right. This is so irritating to me. These people out here trying to find content, right, and try to get click and views. So now they have turned to attacking Shanquella's parents and her sibling, claiming the GoFundMe is a scam and all this stuff. It's so sad. It's so sad that our people are doing this. In my opinion, there is nothing suspicious about the parents. There's nothing suspicious about the GoFundMe they have. In fact, if you look at the one that they have, Quilla Long is the one that set it up. Okay? Quilla Long. You can look at who set it up, and it says Quilla Long. So it's sad that these YouTubers are out here slamming the parents, slamming stuff. That's not cool, guys. And if you see that, do not support that channel. Do not click on the channel. Those are just people that are trying to get clicks and views, and they are not supporting the family by spreading these lies. It's complete lies, guys. They're victims. They lost their loved one. And for people to go out and victimize this family even further, it's horrendous. Okay, Chi-Chi says, I guess the FI say justice hurried is justice buried. Right, Chi-Chi, you're right. You're right. I'm just a little emotional, girl. You're right. You're right. Like I was saying at the beginning of this live, I know the FBI is very thorough. Anything that deals with the federal government, they're going to take a long time. I've never seen them quickly investigate anything. So I already know that they're going to really dot their I's. They're going to cross their T's. And so when they come out with their statement, you're going to be confident that they're going to have enough evidence to prosecute whomever they feel is liable in this case. And I think they're not just looking at the person that's on the Mexican arrest warrant. They're looking at all Cabo 6 to see what, if any, culpable charges they're liable for or responsible for. So that's why I do think that's why it's taking a long time. And I kind of was going back and forth in my analysis throughout this video, guys, because I know, there's a process. I already know this, guys. It's just I'm a little emotional and a little frustrated. And then Nancy Grace got in there and she just amped me up, y'all. She just amped me up. She just got me in my feelings. I was being patient until she came in on the chat. And I'm like, oh, gosh, Nancy, girl, you are right, girl. Why is it taking so long? People are getting impatient. People are getting emotional. And imagine how the parents feel. Imagine how the sister feels. These are people actually directly involved. Okay? They're people that actually know Shanquella, love Shanquella. Seen her raised up from a little cute girl all the way up to 25 years old. So if we're emotional and we don't even know Shanquella, imagine how her mother feels. Imagine how her sister feels. Imagine how her dad feels. Oh my God, his only little girl. Hi, Stacy, or have a good night. I know she already left, but much love to you, Stacy. I hope the Cabo are all in jail for Christmas. I know, I wish, but that's not going to happen, Lori. Girl, you are so optimistic, but that is not going to happen. I don't even think there's going to be much progress until after the new year. Probably by January, we may see something, but definitely not in the next 2 weeks. I would be surprised. I would. It would be a miracle. But with the holidays happening, people going on vacation, all this stuff, I don't think the FBI will have anything, but I would be shocked. You can't predict this stuff. You just can't predict it. All right, guys, I love you guys so much. Thank you for being with me for 2 hours or however long I was on here. Have a wonderful night. Take care.